So I kind of wasn't gonna do any streaming today. Just it's been rough for the last couple of days trying to figure out stuff with my truck. I had to give back the vehicle that was loaned to me. So it's kind of like right now I'm worried about a lot of stuff, and one of the things that I am worried about that some would seem doesn't directly involve me, but it does. Because these are the neighborhoods that I live in. I live in these neighborhoods that are affected by this immigration stance that the mayor of Columbus has decided. I mean, I don't know who told him to make this decision, but I can assure you that all of Columbus, or most of the people that are actually that keep Columbus going, did not ask for this and are the ones that are giving the backlash. So the fact that our mayor, even after our governor came out and said Ohio is not a sanctuary state. Ohio is not a sanctuary state. There's no city in Ohio that offers sanctuary status. But thanks to Columbus's mayor, we get to have sanctuary policies without being a sanctuary state. And this is disgusting. This is why I'm going to tell you, Mayor Ginther, count your days. Count your days. Because this decision right here just tanked any and all possibility of you continuing to be mayor. And as far as I can tell, you'll be lucky if you are upended out of your seat because of this decision. Because this decision, you think, oh, well, this decision it's not that bad. We're just giving refuge to people who. No. What it does is it says that you, Columbus's mayor, speak for the rest of Columbus. You speak for Columbus. And Columbus's citizens said that it is okay for these Somalian immigrants in Minnesota to take advantage of and completely rob, cheat, and steal their way to where they are. You're saying that it's okay. And not just you. Seeing as you speak for the rest of us, you're telling the rest of the country that Ohio, and more specifically Columbus, doesn't see a problem with this Minnesota embezzling scheme that's going on. You are telling the rest of the country and the rest of the world that Ohio, we're okay with it. We're okay with foreigners coming in here and scheming and stealing taxpayer money and putting up fraudulent businesses to further steal that money. This is what's being said when someone like him uses his personal preference policies to speak for the rest of Ohio, or more specifically, the rest of Columbus. This guy should be fired today. The moment those words left his mouth, he should have been fired. He should not be allowed to continue to hurt the people, the actual legal citizen and resident of Columbus, Ohio. This guy needs to be sent home and put into debt, because he's put so many more families into debt with his stupid decisions, his stupid policies, his very small-minded linear policies that help the smallest amount of people possible, but at least it looks good to the virtue signaling people around the world. It looks good to those useless people that have nothing else to offer humanity other than their goofy words. This is what this guy is saying. He's saying he speaks for all of Columbus, and all of Columbus is okay with the scandal that is going on in Minnesota. by allowing these immigrants to come here to seek refuge, to allow any immigrant to come here to seek refuge in hiding from ICE, he needs to be fired and charged with treason. Because he's allowing a militant group of people to build underneath the United States' nose. That is treason to the highest fucking order, and this guy needs arrested and put in prison for it. You are putting the rest of the populace in harm because of your toxic policies. The sanctuary policies are toxic. And anybody that carries sanctuary policies, you are toxic, and you are the reason that all of this immigration stuff is happening. If you have these overly toxic, empathetic policies toward illegal immigrants, mind you, the word is illegal for a reason. Regardless if it takes 14, 15, 30, 40, 50, 100 years to get into this country legally, it's what you have to do. Because I can't go to somewhere like Japan and say instantly, you're going to change your whole country's policies to what I see because I want to be a citizen now. You're going to make me a citizen right now, or you're going to pay through the teeth because of it. This is what these people say day in and day out, and us allowing them to be here and do this is why they will do it and continue to do it. Nothing will change, and everybody will sit and continue to cry about it. Because we keep allowing the people like him, people like Mayor Ginther, to stick around in politics. We allow these people to stick around in politics. And the bad thing is this dude isn't even old. He's probably about my age, maybe younger. Maybe he could be a little bit older. I mean, he doesn't look very old. He looks like a young politician. He looks like he's maybe in his 50s. Breaching 60. But to have such toxic policy that puts our people, Columbus people, Ohio people, in harm's way, you need to be recalled instantly. Instantly. There should be no passing go, no getting your goofy smile off. Nope. Shut your face, shut your hole, go away. You are fired. And I'm going to tell you that now. Mayor Ginther, you're fired. It's just going to take a minute for your paperwork to go through. So you're fired. Just so you know, you've been fired. And the next person that has these toxic policies, save it, because you're fired too. If you have toxic policies, and I'm talking about these policies that sit here and allow illegal immigration, allow people to come in here and scam our system, whether legal or illegal. If you are okay with somebody scamming a system because, well, the system scams you, this is why the system is scamming us. Because so many people are constantly scamming the system. They've embedded it with the bad people who are going to say, you know what? They're going to scam us. Guess what? We're going to make sure they're never able to scam anybody ever again. Toxic policies, go away. You will not get any other foothold in American politics. So if you have policies that are for any other nation, any other nation's people, if you are an American citizen and you're not rooting and cheering for America and the success of America and America only, then you're done. You are done. That's it. You're done. You will never, ever be able to hold a political position in this country ever again. Ever.
Ya ni sal tiene, loco. Solo esto lo da, hermano, todo el día arroz con frijol nada más. Ya ni sal tiene, loco, se siente feo ahí. Y no hay de otra. Si no lo comete, quedas con hambre, pues. Antes uno andaba mandando afuera, ahora mira aquí llorando por comida. Mira esto, loco. Otra vez
Wrong. You have no rights, homie. You gave up your rights when you thought you were some thug, some gangster. When you took your moral compass and you threw it aside and said people's lives don't mean shit. You have no rights. And if you end up in CCOT, so be it. That's your fucking problem. That's your problem and your fault. If you got yourself hemmed up and sent to CCOT, it's not a typo. Maybe early on, when people's paperwork were all jumbled up and mixed together, because when you go from analog to digital, there's going to be a lot of problems. And seeing as the country's literally been working in the analog age for the last 100+ years, 200, 300 years, yeah, there's going to be some problems. But guess what? You get sent to CCOT now, you belong there. You belong there. And if the food's too bad, then you should have changed your ways back when you knew the food was bad. When you first learned the food was bad at a place like CCOT, you probably should have changed your ways. Especially knowing that there's a possibility you might end up there. Well, I'm an American citizen. How would I? No, you're not an American citizen, because if you ended up in CCOT from being sent from the United States, then you were never a citizen of this country to begin with. You're a violent criminal, otherwise known as foreign militant, who tried to set up shop here. It ain't going to work. It ain't going to happen, and it's never going to happen again. And as a matter of fact, anybody and everybody who doesn't speak English at all, if you speak not a bit of English, you better start learning it. You better start learning English. If you can't read street signs, you better start learning how to read English. Because we will never conform to you. We will never change our language to a secondary. No, the primary language here is English, American English. It's not Britain English. It's not Canadian English. It's not broken English. It's not Chinese English. It's English. It's American English. If you can't speak it, you can't read it, you don't belong here, and you don't need to be here anymore. We should not be catering to people that want to come here and change us to what they came from. Because last time I checked, people leave places because they don't like them. So why are you leaving a place you don't like to come to a place you do like, just to change it into a place you don't like? Is that your plan? Your plan to go from place to place to place around the world, making it into something you don't like, so that you can say, well, look, the world sucks. Even though I turned it into something I don't like, the world still sucks. Because this is what's happening. When we cater to these people and people like this, we are saying that the values that we used to hold true and dear to our hearts no longer mean anything. They mean less than. And if it gets more people in the country to buy more products and get more streaming subscriptions, then I don't care what people say about the United States of America. We don't need this. We don't need this here. We don't need these people here. And to be honest, anytime I say I hate this country, I'm actually allowed to say that. I'm allowed to say that. I come from 3 or 4 generations of families that were born here and have worked and fought for essentially nothing. And I say essentially nothing because my family hasn't been able to stack up ridiculous amounts of property and funds and money and assets and this and that and the other. I'm not an OG bloodline of this country, but I do have an indigenous part of my bloodline from this country. And I have less now than my immigrant great-grandparents did from Hungary and Ireland. because that's where my grandmother's parents come from. They came from Hungary. They come from Hungary and Ireland. My grandfather's parents, his dad is Irish, his mom was Native American. My mom's parents, a little bit further back. Her family line goes a little bit further back in this country. But even then, they came from England, Germany, Hungary. They came from every other European country around the world to here. They didn't come here owning slaves. As a matter of fact, the slave owners still own slaves. It's just called corporations now. That's literally what these plantations are. Plantations are corporations. They're one and the same. The same idea. Essentially the same scare tactics. Whereas in slave times, you had to worry about being murdered. That was your punishment for not being a good little slave. Now, it's being run up to the point of you don't get murdered, you just starve to death, you end up homeless, living on the streets, and from there, you can't get health care, so you end up with a compromised immune system from living on the streets and having so much bacteria all over your body all the time. But then, even then, there are a lot of people that live on the streets that have a hell of a lot stronger immune system than we do. And that's because they keep themselves completely bacteria ridden. Their body is constantly fighting off bacteria and infections. And seeing as they're not compounding the compromising of their immune system is able to eventually fight it off, and they're basically walking around like superheroes. These people that are making all these awful decisions that are just putting us all in harm's way, they're people like Mayor Gunther. They're people like him. He needs to go away. And his stance, his policy, and every bit of what he thinks is best for Ohio needs to go with him. Because I can guarantee you the billions of dollars that he just signed us up to spend could be better used other places. I can also guarantee that he's probably one of the ones that's lobbying to give the unclaimed money from Ohio to the Browns football stadium. He's one of these people. He is one of these people that do things like that. So the fact that we keep people like him in these offices to make these ugly, goofy, retarded faces, it makes me very angry. And this is one of the reasons why I say I hate this country. I wish I could really move and live somewhere else just to see if it's so much better than here. Because if I could go to Japan and just live in Japan for maybe a year, maybe I might see what's so great about the United States of America. But as an American citizen, the only thing great about America are the citizens that make it great. That's it. There are 0% of the population of politicians that make this country good. They are all bad. They make this country the worst part of itself, the worst form of itself. And the only people that are worth anything in this country are the people that don't have actual rights to anything in this country. Because remember, buying isn't owning. We're meant to rent and borrow and be loaned everything for the rest of our existence. These are the people that run this country. So while it is a small amount of people, it makes the entire country unbearable. Because you could go from one state that is phenomenal in policy, They keep the foreigners out, keep them at bay, making sure there's no illegal anything, any illegal immigration going on anywhere. They're making sure that they try to tackle all the money crimes that go on, try to tackle as much of the crime, regular civilian crime that goes on. A state that does very well, you don't normally hear about them at all. You don't. You hear very small things. And when you do hear it, it makes national news. Why? Because it doesn't happen there. And you know why it doesn't happen there? Is because they're not sanctuary cities. They're not sanctuary states. They don't have people like Mayor Cunt Turd running their policies into the ground. This is not a sanctuary state, homie. So take your sanctuary policies, roll them up into a cylindrical tube, put your head between your ankles, and have fun. Because we don't need that, and we don't need you. And if I could recall you, no one would know who you are. You would become not even a footnote in any page of anywhere. I would make sure your name gets forgotten the moment you left office. You'd still be alive. You'd still be walking around. But you wouldn't have a voice that meant anything. And I wouldn't silence you. I would make sure, just make sure everyone knew this is the stupidest person on earth. This right here. This guy right here is one of the stupidest people on earth. So keep pushing your immigration. Immigration's not bad. Policies. Because you're fired. Just so you know. It'll take some time to catch up to you. But Mayor Ginthard, Cunt Turd, you're fired. And Turdwine, you're fired too. It just hasn't caught up to you yet either. You can take you and your man lady wife and beat feet. You're both done. You're fired. Both of you are fired. It's just going to take some time for you to realize it. And the rest of Ohio politicians, take note. Because you do this stuff, you're fired too. You start putting Ohio citizens in front of everything else, or you're fired as well. We're done. We are done with these games. We're done with these policies that only help a tiny subsection of people. And unfortunately, you don't get to make the changes. You don't get to make the corrections because you're fired. And it's sad because I wasn't even going to bring it up because somebody that I call, I mean, they're still a very dear friend, whether they want to look at me as a dear friend or not. They're a very dear friend. I've known them since high school. We have been friends since then. But unfortunately, I'm still finding the same thing over and over again. People latch onto a small, singular policy that somebody has, and they allow that to be their driving factor on how they view that person. And while I've already said it multiple times, it's good for anybody over the age of 65 or retirement age to have access to CBD and THC. It is very good. But what I don't agree with is the fact that somebody's got to say it. The fact that it's got to be written into a policy and signed in an executive law, and then this got to declassify. See, that's the problem to begin with. We have people that think they know how other people's lives should be lived because they live their lives a particular way. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So to build your entire perception and your reason to have somebody's back on something like reclassifying marijuana, it's very, very shallow. It's very shallow, especially seeing as not one of the promises I've seen have been kept. None of them. Well, immigration, they're being blocked for immigration. No, they're not. They are not being blocked at all. They're allowing this little fake thing where they're allowed to have, like, be pushed back or whatever it is. No, they're not. They're the federal government, and when it comes to a federal statute like immigration, unless the state's going to produce an army real fast, they can't say anything. And if a mayor or a governor wants to step in your way, you know what you do? You throw them in handcuffs, you put them in the back of one of those ICE vehicles, and they get to take a ride with those people. They get to take a ride with those people. Because it's treasonous. It's absolutely treasonous. And if the founding fathers were still alive, and if the founding fathers actually had ancestry that had backbones, it would look a lot different. You'd be calling people like Thomas Jefferson a fascist. You'd be calling George Washington a fascist, because they wouldn't stand for it. They wouldn't stand for it at all. They themselves would have hogtied all of these people, thrown them in the back of a carriage, and drugged them to some other border themselves. They wouldn't have stood for any of this. They wouldn't have stood for somebody lobbying for another country's politics. They wouldn't have stood for the United States even saying we're a sanctuary country. We're a sanctuary. We have sanctuary cities. They wouldn't have stood for that at all. You all think that you know what the founding fathers would have said. No, the reason they did what they did was because of this exact stuff we're living through. The reason they wanted to create the United States to begin with was because of these exact things we're living through. The government's making the worst, most asinine choices in policy that anybody could ever make. And as a matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing more revolutionists popping up across Europe. I mean, you're already seeing it in France and places like that. These big, supposedly big political world politics countries, we're supposedly seeing it there. I mean, France had a stranglehold on their people, but you see, it's on fire. France is burning. The same with a lot of other countries and city-states are burning. Some are flying the Straw Hat Pirates flag. And only the smartest people know what that truly stands for, what the Straw Hat Pirate flag stands for. The truly intelligent people really know what that flag really truly means. And it's not just something from some anime. It's not that. The meaning behind that flag is the ultimate resistance. It means more resistance than the rebel insignia from Star Wars, Guy Fawkes. The Straw Hat Pirate flag means more for resisting and resistance than any of that stuff. And it is an anime. It is an anime that is written with that much passion into it. That a flag flown by the protagonists of the show is seen as a direct voice for resistance. There's a reason for it. And it didn't happen. It just didn't happen out of nowhere. So yeah, we're going to go through some of this stuff. These stupid decisions that this guy is making on supposedly